Hey guys, how's it going? And welcome to One More Line. Today we're going to be doing a lab from the Cisco Netacad course Network Security. It is lab 4.4.9. It is found in section 4, section 4 of chapter 4, right here in between these two IRL labs. Hacker Tracer Lab 4.4.8. Configure and secure passwords and SSH. Okay? So, before we get started here, let's take a look at everything. Up here at the top, we have our addressing table, which is going to come in handy and provide us the information that we so require to set the addressing scheme on our little miniature network, which is completely useless, but serves our purposes for this lab. So the scenario here. The network admin has asked you to prepare RTA and SW1 for deployment. All right, maybe it's not so useless. Maybe we're just a rogue IT guy setting these things up, and it's not actually on the network yet. We're using our computer to do so. Actually totally makes sense. I should read the scenarios more. Before they can be connected to the network, security measures must be enabled. Oh my god, all my questions were answered before I spoke. I should have read that. So, instructions. Part 1. Configure basic security on the router. In part A here, configure IP addressing on PCA according to the table. We're going to open up PCA, go to desktop, click IP configuration, and we're just going to go right here. And I'm going to be a lazy bones, and I'm going to copy in PCA. It's going to be 10. Okay. And that's what I got. Then that will not auto fill out. Make sure you change that. It's correct. The correct one will be 255.2550. Then we're going to come down here and we're going to actually just paste it again, but we're going to change it to 1. So it should be 172.16.11 for the default gateway. Okay? There is no save for this. After you've entered, just click off somewhere to make sure it exits the field, and then you can hit X. Okay. Part 2. Console into RTA from the terminal on PCA. We can see we already have a console line going to RTA. So just click open PCA, click terminal, click OK. And we're in. Click this little top check mark right here so that every time you click away from the window, you don't lose it behind your screen. I'm going to make mine bigger. I'm going to see. I can't remember. Okay. I'm going to make mine bigger. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to say enable to enter privileged exec, and then we're going to say conf t to enter global config mode. Now that we're in global config mode, we're going to move on to step C, which is configure the host name as RTA. All right, so that we're just going to say hostname RTA. Okay. Then up next, we're going to configure IP addressing on RTA and enable the interface. So up here, we can see our addressing for RTA. So to do that, we're going to get into the interface. We're going to say interface gigabit Ethernet 000. Okay. And remember, you can autocomplete that. As soon as the word is unique enough that it couldn't be confused for anything else, you can hit tab. It will autocomplete the word. I didn't type gigabit Ethernet. I typed GI and hit tab. Okay. So then we're going to do the IP address first. Well, actually, we're going to put a description. Even though it doesn't require it, it's good to be in practice and do things proper. So we're going to say description. And we'll say router for network 172.16.1.0. Okay. So after we add our description for the network, we're going to add our IP address in. We're going to say IP address, and that's going to be 172.16.1, and it's going to be 0.1. And then our subnet mask will be 255.255.255.0. Make sure you entered your address correctly. I mess up all the time. My keyboard is old. I often hit 2 keys by accident. Make sure you check. It'll save yourself a lot of heartache later if you got it wrong and you accidentally press enter. Then hit enter. Okay. And then the next thing we're going to say is we're going to say no shutdown. Okay, you'll notice that it's changed to up. We're going to press enter again, and we're going to move on to our next step. Our next step is going to be encrypt all plain text passwords. So we're going to say exit and get back into global config, and we're going to say service password encryption. Okay, then set the minimum password length to 10. All right, so to do that, we're going to say security password. Oh, what am I doing? Security. I cannot type today. Passwords, and that's going to be min length 10. All right, and then we're going to move on to the next step. G, we're going to set a strong secret password of your choosing. Now, since this is a lab, I'm not going to set a strong secret password. I'm going to just set a simple password, and I'm just going to say this is a password. It doesn't matter because I believe we actually do not. I've done this lab before. I believe we actually do not even end up using it, so whatever. But I'm going to say enable secret this. Oh, I keep putting spaces. Is a password. Okay. Now it's good to, even though we're not going to use it, it's good to get in good habits and make sure you enter what you wanted, because there's no confirmation when you set these. So we said enable secret, and I said this is a password. That is the password I wanted. I'm going to hit enter. Okay. Next, we're going to disable DNS lookup. So that's simple. We're going to say no IP domain lookup. Then we're going to set the domain name to netsec. Okay, so to do that, we're going to say, if I could type it right, IP domain name netsec dot, oh, not netsec, netsec.com. Okay, make sure you entered the correct domain name. It's obviously not very long in this case, but good to be in the habit of checking. Hit enter. Okay, then we're going to create a user of your choosing with a strong encrypted password. Well, I'm not going to do it again. I'm just going to say username, any user, and then I'm going to say secret, which means encrypted, and I'm going to say any password. Okay? Make sure, again, that the password is what you entered. All right, and then we're going to generate our keys. They really should add like confirmation for passwords in Cisco iOS. I don't know why it doesn't ask you to confirm. I'm sure it would save so much time. How many times have people entered a password and had a typo and put in the wrong password? It has to be a lot. So to do this, we're just going to say crypto key generate RSA, and we're going to hit enter. And then we're going to say 1024 when the prompt shows up. Now we are on to L. Block anyone for 3 minutes who fails to log in after 4 attempts within a 2-minute period. All right, long command coming up here. We're just going to say login block for 180 attempts is going to be 4 within 120. Okay. Then we're going to configure all VTY lines for SSH access and use local user profiles for authentication. So we're going to say line VTY 0 through 4 to enter line config mode. Once we're in, we're going to say transport input SSH, and then we're going to say login local. Then we're going to also, on step N here, before we exit out, we're going to say exec timeout, which will set the exec timeout mode to 6 minutes. We're going to say exec timeout 6. Hit enter. Right? Now you can exit out, of line config mode. You're going to say end because we're actually done configuring altogether. So we're just going to say end, END, which will bring us all the way back to privileged exec. Okay. Now it says save the configuration. So we're going to say show just because it's good to keep those good habits and make sure. We're going to say show run. And we can check and make sure everything that we want in our configuration is in there. Okay. Go through it, make sure your address is right. We know it is. Keep pressing space to get to the bottom. When we're satisfied, we're going to say copy, run, start, and hit enter. Okay. Now, next, we're going to SSH into our instance. Even though it doesn't matter, you could skip this part if you prefer. But to do it, you're going to close out of this. You're going to go into command prompt. You're going to say SSH L, and then you're going to say the username, which mine was any user. And we're going to put the target, which will be the IP address 172.16.1.1 of the router. And then we're going to hit the password, which I believe mine was any password. Okay, and as you can see, I'm in RTA now and able to do stuff. Okay, that's as far as it goes in this lab, particularly, but that's how you would do it if you wanted to SSH in. So now we're done here. We're going to close that, and we're going to go on to part 2. In part 2, we're going to configure basic security on the switch. Now to do that, we're going to have to take our console cable and move it over as it wants us to console in. Okay, so configure switch S1 with corresponding security measures. Refer to the configuration steps on the router if you need assistance. Console into SW1 from the terminal on PCA. So you're going to click right there, and you're going to move this bad boy over to SW1 and click on console to connect it. And that's it for that. Then on part B, configure the host name as SW1. So let's terminal in, click that open, click terminal, click OK, and then scroll down. You're now in your switch, okay, instead of the router. So we are going to say first enable, then we're going to say conft, then we're going to say host name SW1. All right. Then on, make sure to click top here. I'm going to click top. I'm going to make my window a little bit bigger as well. Right. You don't click top there. Every time you click away, you're going to lose your window. Okay, so configure IP addressing on SW1 for VLAN 1 and enable the interface. All right. So for this step, we're going to need this addressing table again up here. We can see that VLAN 1 is going to be 172.16.1.2 with a subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. Okay. So we're in config mode already. We're going to say interface VLAN, not VLAN, VLAN 1. We're going to give it a description. We're going to just call it VLAN 1. Why not? Then we'll say IP address 172.16.1.2, and then subnet mask going to be 255.255.255.0. We're going to hit enter. Okay. Next, we're going to say no shutdown. All right. We'll see that change to up. Now, our next step, make note of the default gateway up here, okay? Because our next step, I believe, is to exit out and enter the default gateway. Yes. So part D is going to be configure the default gateway address. To do that, we're going to say exit, not end, because we just want to go back to global config. So we're going to say IP default gateway 172.16.1.1. And that's it. Make sure you put the right one in, hit enter. Okay. Now we're on to step E, disable all unused switch ports. So in this portion, they give us a lesson. I figure a lot of people doing this lab for a class probably know by now what an interface range is, but if you're just stumbling across this, this is good to know. So listen up, pay attention to this. On a switch, it is a good security practice to disable unused ports. One method of doing this is to simply shut down each port with the shutdown command. This would require accessing each port individually, which would take forever. There's a shortcut method for making modifications to several ports at once by using the interface range command. On SW1, all ports except for Fast Ethernet 01 and Gigabit Ethernet 01 can be shut down with the following command. Now, I'm going to explain it a little more than just telling you the command. Interface range, and then we see F02 through 24, then we get a comma, and Gigabit Ethernet 02. So, the first part is like logging in to any interface, or not logging on, but entering any interface configuration mode. Right? And then the dash means 224, okay? So we can see on SW1 that we are using F01 if we hover. Obviously it tells us here too, but if you wanted to do this for something where it wasn't told to you, you would hover over the switch, you would see that 1 is in use, if I could get it to hover. I can't get it to hover, hold on, I'm trying to get it to keep it still. Okay. So we can see that Fast Ethernet 01 is in use, Gigabit Ethernet 01 is in use. So there's one other Gigabit Ethernet port, which is 2. And then Fast Ethernet goes up to 24. Okay? So of course it was told to us in this lab, but if it wasn't told to you and you're using a different lab and you needed a quick way to figure it out, this is what you would do. Alright? So then we're going to go in here to global config where we are, and we're going to say interface range F02. Then we're going to say dash 24, which means all the way through to 24. So that's every other port in this example. It's every other port besides the first one. Then we're going to put a comma to separate it. And we're going to say G0\2. Now, that's not a range, that's just a single port because there's only one left. You can keep chaining them together. If you wanted to enter multiple more ranges, you could. You just separate them all by a comma. So we're going to hit enter. Now we're in interface range configuration mode, and we're just going to say shutdown. And hit enter. Boom, big wall of text, okay? We just shut every port in the house down, and our completion rate shot up to 81%. Because this actually counts, if you look at the assessment items, every single port is graded, okay? So, I guess they do that in case you forget one or something, or type the range wrong, that way you don't get a full grade. There you have it, we're up to 81%. We're going to keep going on down the line here. So, now that we shut all those down, we are going to encrypt all plain text passwords, okay? So to do that, we're going to exit out, back to global config mode, and we're going to say service password encryption, and hit enter, okay? Then we're going to set a strong secret password of our choosing on G, or on the G here. So I'm going to say enable secret, and I'm just going to say this is a password. If you would like to enter a strong password, feel free. This lab ends after this configuration. You're never going to use it, so not a big deal. Then we're going to disable DNS lookup. So we're going to say no IP domain lookup. Hit enter. I actually skipped highlighting this one. Sorry, we just did H, which was no IP domain lookup, and now we're on to I. We're going to set the domain name to NetSec. Okay, so we're going to say, what is that? IP domain name. Yep. And then we're going to say netsec.com. Hit enter. All right. Then next here on J, we're going to create a user of your choosing with a strong encrypted password. So make sure you say secret, not password. We're going to say user. I'm going to say any user again. I'm just going to use the same stuff. I'm going to say any user. Then I'm going to say secret. And then my password will be any password. All right. Hit enter. Let's see. Now we're on to K. We're going to generate our keys. That's going to be crypto key generate RSA. Okay, hit enter. Then put 1024. All right. Now we're going to configure all VTY lines for SSH access and use the local profiles for authentication. Okay. So here for the VTY lines, there's going to be 15. So we're going to say VTY lines 0 through 15 and hit enter. What did I do? Oh, geez. I always do that. I do that all the time. It's line VTY 0 through 15 and hit enter. Okay. Now we're in line config mode and we're going to say login local. Then we'll say transport input SSH and hit enter. And then we're also, I don't know why they make this a separate step, because it's very easy to forget that you're going to do this. Then we're also, before we exit out, we're going to set the exec mode timeout to 6 minutes. Okay? So we're going to say exec timeout 6. Hit enter. All right. And then now we're done configuring. Our last step is going to be to save the configuration to NVRAM. So we can just say end instead of exit. We're going to say END, hit enter. This will bring us all the way back to privileged exec, where we'll say show run, which will show us a running configuration where we can confirm everything is as we want it to be. Okay. And then we're going to say copy run start, which is shorthand for copy running config to starting config. We're going to hit enter. We're just going to say yes. And there we go. Our completion rate is at 100%. And you're done with this lab. You have successfully, what do they call this? Successfully configured SSH with secure passwords. Okay? Now, as you get further into this course, as I'm assuming most people are coming here because they're doing this lab as part of the course. If not, well then, whatever. But as you get further into this course, you will find more ways to secure SSH and make your instances in Cisco iOS much more secure than this. But for now, we've done the deed. The lab is done. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day or night or whatever it is for you out there. Take care. Thank you for watching.